me welcome Diana Moraes de Motta. And I apologize for my Portuguese. I did spend some time in Brazil, long enough to learn that I am probably the worst at Portuguese. And Professor Eric Hakeala has helped arrange her visit here. Diana Motta is Director of Projects Management at the Sao Paulo Company of Metropolitan Development, Emplasa, of the state of Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Planning and Research Technician of the Institute of Applied Economic Research, APEA, of the federal government. She's an architect and urban specialist with master's degrees in urban planning from the University of Brasilia. She began her professional activities at the National Council of Urban Development in 1981, playing an important role in the ministries of urban development in the formulation and follow-up of politics, programs, projects, and laws related to urban issues. She has advised the Brazilian government in Global United Nations, for the Global United Nations Conference on the Environment and Development, the Rio 92 Human Settlements, the Habitat 2, and the Millennium Development Goals, Agenda 21. At APEA, she was General Coordinator of Urban Policy, where she advised the national government, the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, and other institutions. She has served as Secretary of State of Urban Development and Housing of the Government of the Federal District from 2004 to 2006, and Municipal Secretary of Housing and Land Regularization of the City of Natal in the state of Rio Grande do Norte in 2009. She was awarded by UNESCO and the International Union of Architects in 1981 and received honorary mention from the Metropolis Awards Berlin 2005 for best practices in housing and poverty in urban areas. She has published several books on the Brazilian urban system and urban management, and has published articles and papers on urban systems, urban policy, land markets, urban poverty, planning tools and urban management, and housing, informal urban areas, and institutional development. So we are exceptionally pleased to have somebody with that depth of experience and accomplishment here. And so let me welcome Director de Motta.
Oh, thank you so much for my invitation. Well, I'd like to thank Price School and Denote and Professor Hakeala for inviting me to present a short overview on Brazil urbanization and Sao Paulo Macrometropolis region. Also, I'd like to thank Professor Burnett for a nice introduction. I do really apologize, my English is not fluently, but I try to do my presentation, okay? Anyway, okay, my presentation focus on three main parts, okay, regarding urban development in Brazil. First, regarding urban conditions and institutional aspects. This is very important for us. They are very influenced in public policies in Brazil, our institutional aspects, especially Constitution, the new Constitution on 1988, and some challenges regarding Sao Paulo Macrometropolis, okay? This slide shows Brazilian urban system. This is very interesting. You can we can show here Sao Paulo urban system. We have more density. We have some to show something to a point. I think it's very interesting. Anyway, okay, you have the very high density cities and more articulated system. It's very interesting. It's very special regarding, especially because it's very close from Rio de Janeiro. Okay. Brazil and Sao Paulo state have a strategic location, very strategic location, especially regarding the other countries in South America and also in the other states in Brazil, okay? I like very much this image, okay? It's very interesting. You can see here our urbanization, especially in the coast, okay? And especially here is a very strong urban system in Sao Paulo state. And it's very interesting. We can see this area, big area, it's Amazonia forest, rainforest, okay? And it's very interesting also, this is Brasilia. Before 1960, we have a few cities in this area, okay? This slide shows also the South America urban system. And we have some trends now in Brazil regarding urbanization. First, from endless urbanization to the end of urbanization. This is very expressive, okay, sentence. Regarding, I don't know if you know, but in the 70s, Brazil have a very strong, dynamic demographic movement and urbanization. And South America, I don't know, but if you know about that, but South America, one of the most regions have more dynamic urbanization in the world. Okay, because the concentration of population in urban agglomerations is about 50% of total population in Brazil live in urban agglomerations. Also, urbanization happens along main roads in the southeast regions, northeast and midwest and north regions. The migrations, a very new indications regarding the metropolis are no longer the destination of immigrants. Now, medium-sized cities, okay, receive the most of the movements regarding the immigrants in Brazil. It's very new regarding urbanization. The important role of medium-sized cities. Informality in the use and occupation of urban land. And urban growth in informal patterns of occupation. Territorial decentralization of jobs and opportunities, and medium-sized cities are more attractive now in Brazil, okay? We have some data regarding urban conditions. We have in terms of social indicators, social data, Brazil is not good, okay? 84 position, but in economy, we are going well, okay, very well. We have 67.6 million in households. Some slums population in Brazil increased around 42% in 15 years. This is a big problem for us. We need a new urban policy regarding especially offer housing for especially poor people, especially affordable housing. We have very interesting indicate on water supply, 91%, and including sewage. We need also improve our sanitation system in Brazil. We have some problems with this. Okay, cities and urban policy in Brazil needs really to improve. The productivity of the metropolitan regions fell in the last 10 years, especially the main metropolitan regions, like Rio de Janeiro, Porto Alegre, Belo Horizonte, Recife in the northeast. Informality in labor markets and land. We have also crime and violence in informal settlements. We have, regarding urban policy, weak private sector participation. This is we need improve, okay, and to include the private sector in our project, in our development. Services, regarding service and infrastructure, we need also improve, especially in the metropolitan regions regarding transport, sanitation, and solid waste. We need also increase municipal investment. It's very weak, okay, the municipal investment. And also improve municipal management regarding administrative, fiscal, and financial issues. This is a very important to show you regarding our very complex system on responsibilities of federal, state, and local governments regarding our new constitution in 1988. We have a very complex system that include exclusive, common, and supplementary responsibilities between federal, state, and local governments. We have, regarding common responsibilities, protection of historical assets and cultural landscape, protecting the environment, and protecting housing program, housing program and construction, and housing conditions, sanitation and transport system. At federal level, regarding planning, we have the responsibilities on urban development law, regional plans, economic and social development plan, and national territory plan. On legislative level, we have transport and disappropriation regarding especially property rights. Responsibilities regarding the state on planning, metropolitan regions must be adopted by the state level, and the legislation also regarding urban rights. Local government in Brazil, regarding planning, we have the responsibility regarding the special planning and control of the land use, implementation of urban policy, master plan, and popular participation in municipal planning. Regarding legislation, all local issues, okay, is the responsibility of the municipalities and local governments in Brazil. The main and the major characteristics of our urbanization is now, especially on institutional, legal, and operational difficulty to overcome the problems associated with housing, subdivision, use, and occupation of urban land, difficulty of access to land and housing, especially on the slums, illegal settlements, village, and other forms of rent, and inadequacy of policies and urban planning tools and management. Very rigid, excessive, complex, and cannot keep up the urban dynamics. Some evaluation regarding urban planning and management tools. We have strong institutional barriers, legal and operational requirements that make it difficult to overcome the problems associated with the use and occupation of urban land. Planning tools and management of land use have not been effective in the role of guiding urban development. And we need improved policies that have been adopted to deal with informal settlements. I have pleasure to show some pictures. This is which shows, I think, in the periphery in our metropolitan areas. This shows the informal land markets. Okay, this is a rent. I rent, says, I sell this house. This is Rio de Janeiro. You know, it's very strong. The informal settlements, especially favelas. You know. This is also very famous Rocinha in Rio de Janeiro. And this is northeast of Brazil. We have still this kind of occupation, okay, and it's very interesting now. This is north of Brazil, is Belém, a very big metropolitan region in Belém. And this is the main person that guides the informal market, okay? This person lives in a slum, and he sells houses and rent houses, okay, despite the formal and the formal politics, okay? I think this is a very big challenge in Brazil now, the favelas. We need offer housing, and we need improve land markets. And this is very interesting. This is a new phenomenon in Brazil, is regarding the verticalization of the favelas, you see? This is very interesting. This picture, okay, you see is the same favela, okay? It is very interesting because it shows by the very important newspaper in Brazil, Folha de Sao Paulo. And this shows that we need improve, and we need more market more dynamic, okay? This is other kind of informality. This is a land parcel in Federal District in Brasilia. Okay, it's very interesting because it's very organized, okay, the space. But we have a lot of people, even medium class, live in informal situation regarding the law. After my speech, I'd like that Professor Requila did some comments. He knows yesterday we have a very interesting discussion in his class. And I think it's very interesting how the institutional framework in Brazil is so strong, and how the institutional framework have some strong implications in our urban development, okay, especially for the poor people. We have these challenges regarding adequate regulation of land use, and urban development generates more costs than benefits and hardly reflect the ability to pay for urban citizens. Inadequacy and failure of urban planning tools and management have contributed to perpetuate poverty. We have a lot of examples for this. Inability to meet the 5 levels of urban regulations. We have master plans, we have zoning, we have subdivision laws, we have building codes, we have standards of public utilities, and it's very complicated system. regarding how the municipalities organize the planning framework. We need also improve environmental licensing. This is a very important also. We have a very strong impact in formal settlements because in Brazil now, after the 80s and during the 90s, environmental issues become very strong, okay, I think in all the world, but in Brazil, especially in Brazil, okay, and we have a lot of institutions on environmental that work on this issue, this important issue, and we need more strong, we need coordinate more, okay, this kind of actions, okay, in order to coordinate to an holistic, okay, vision on the space. We have also difficulty of access of land and housing. Other recommendations, we need to address and manage urban growth, meet the demands of migration. This is very, very important, okay? Prevent slum and unemployment, promoting public policies for managing urban land, housing, and sanitation, especially land tenure. We have a very complicated legislation regarding land tenure and property rights. Increase integration between medium-sized cities and other towns. Promote the integration of urban and rural activities. We have legislation regarding rural and urban areas, especially master plans, okay? If you construct in a rural area, you are informal, okay? This is very strong implication in urban development, in social and economic dynamics. And real estate, okay? We need to reduce costs and simplify procedures. So regarding urban tools, and especially planning and urban management, we have some recommendation. We need that our regulation reflect about reality, more flexibility, social and economic adequacy, clarity and agility, easy to understand, including professionals, including officials. Also, we need to preserve local autonomy and municipal peculiarities. Brazil is a big country, you know. In certain economy issues in urban policy, this is a big challenge. I think all South America countries does not have condition to include economic issues and special social issues in the urban policy. This is very important, include economy issues in urban policies. We need also adopt progressive urbanization programs. This is very important because infrastructure is very expensive in our country, okay? Especially in a large scale. Housing, especially to combat housing deficit and informal settlements. And capacity building also is very important and necessary. Anyway, I think we need a new urban planning approach. Not even in Brazil, but also in other countries in South America. We have a very heritage regarding laws, very strong. We regulate everything, you see. And this is not good for us. This is not good for social conditions. So we need also a new governance, okay? And like agreement, a big agreement, okay, including executive, legislative, and judicial and society, and also including agreement between union, states, and local government for cooperation and management towards the improvement of urban policy tools. Now, some view regarding Sao Paulo state. This is a macrometropolis of Sao Paulo that includes 4 metropolitan regions. You can see in the slide, okay, here. This is Campinas metropolitan region. This is Sao Paulo metropolitan region. This is other metropolitan region named Baixada Santista. We have a lot of oil, petroleum here. And here's a very new metropolitan region named Vale do Paraíba. It's very rich because we linked São Paulo with Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro is like this here. here we have very interesting data regarding Sao Paulo economy. It's very interesting. This is in euros, but not in dollar. But it's very interesting. You can see GDP, okay, Brazil, Argentina, and Sao Paulo. You see, it's very interesting. The GDP of Sao Paulo is bigger than the GDP of Argentina, okay? It's like a country, very strong country economy regarding South America. This is the GDP of Brazil here, and GDP of Argentina and GDP of Sao Paulo state, okay? We have the GDP per capita. So you show, it's very interesting regarding sugar and ethanol, you know ethanol, sugar and ethanol, Sao Paulo is the main producer in the world. Also in orange juice. Okay, it's very interesting. And we have a lot of other very important in economy information. Okay, okay. So regarding Emplasa Metropolitan Agency, you have big challenges, especially in social and environmental issues. Poverty reduction, focus on metropolitan planning, transportation and mobility, environmental and sanitation, and housing. And we have now very interesting projects, okay, especially on housing, regarding our new housing plan for the 4 metropolitan regions, a metropolitan plan with big strategy, and with urban drainage management and water management. This is the 4 main projects that we are now in Emplasa and Secretary of Metropolitan Regions, okay? This is agenda, very important for us. First, we need development strategy for Macrometropolis. We need also create center for management and metropolitan contingencies. And we need now, we have now a very new study regarding urban network, urban system and state of Sao Paulo and Metropolitan. Okay? That is it. Thank you so much.
Let me introduce Professor Harry Richardson, who will provide some comments. Professor Richardson is one of the leading experts on urbanization and economic development worldwide, having done research in, and I'm going to forget the exact number, but my guess is close to 30 countries?
Oh, no, you're exaggerating. Only 28.
Only 28. Only 28. I was rounding, not exaggerating. Having done research in 28 countries, having published influential work going back a period of time. and an expert in matters of international development. Let me introduce Professor Richardson.
I don't know why I was invited to do this, because of the fact that there are several people in the audience, Professor Eichler, Professor Robertson, and about Professor Bonnet, who have actually worked in, and you've worked in Brazil as well, Ilse? And everybody has been there so much more recently than I have. So I guess my perspective about Brazil is the historical perspective, in that I haven't worked there in 20 years. I've changed regions of the world. There's so many countries to visit, you know. Anyway, the first point I want to bring up is Diane is not an economist, and so the first point I want to bring up is an economic question. It's the most important question in my mind when I think about Brazil these days. But it has, although it's an economics question, it has massive implications for metropolitan development. And the point is that, in my view, one of the biggest problems in Brazil, and in many other parts of the world, of course, is the income distribution problem. And you know, it's still, the numbers that I've seen still look very, very bad. Gini coefficient, way, way up there. That ratio of the top 20% of income to the bottom 20%, way up there. So those numbers are really, well, frightening in a sense. But I detected, and I don't know whether I'm interpreting it wrongly because I wasn't there at the time, that since President Lula came into power, there's been some change. Because before, when he came into power, everybody expected, when he was elected, everybody expected that because of his past, he was going to concentrate solely on income redistribution issues. And he did give a lot of attention to that. But at the same time, he kept a kind of an open view about the macroeconomic policy and about international economic policy. So that was a surprise to many people because they didn't anticipate that. But the point was that and I don't know to what extent that initiation by President Lula has played a major role in it, but now if you look at the economic status of Brazil, everybody's talking about Brazil as one of the well, it is true, statistically, one of the fastest growing countries in the world, all world, not just the developing world. And so now they started to mention Brazil, India, and China in the same breath.
BRICS.
Right? So the question which I have, and I'm not expecting that you can answer it specifically, since you're a planner and an architect rather than an economist, is this if this trend continues, and I see no reason why. Of course, there'll be little cycles along the way, but I still would expect that in the secular terms, that Brazil is going to continue to grow very rapidly. But the key question, is that going to have an impact upon income redistribution?
Income distribution.
Yeah, so that's, and if they have an impact on income redistribution, it's going to affect so many things at the metropolitan level. And particularly, I guess, in Sao Paulo and Rio, and maybe some of the other big cities. So my second comment is about the well, I noticed when from the flyer about your experience in land regulation, registration. When I was in Brazil, it's in the 1980s, there had been very little progress on that. I was actually there at not just land regulation, but also housing as well. I was there actually in Brazil when the National Housing Bank was abolished.
National Housing.
BNH, I know by pronunciation. Yes, 1986. And then the other point is, if you read on paper about the Constitution and the land reform law, now one of the things which I want to ask you, and perhaps you can, if you can comment on it afterwards, you make some generalization, but I'd really like to know, has there been a significant quantum leap in the conditions relating to land reform, land ownership, land issues, since the Constitution in the last 20 years compared with the previous decade or two, right? So that's another question.
Excuse me, Professor, regarding your last question,
yes.
Can you repeat a little bit for me?
Oh, sorry, I'm speaking too fast. When I read about the Constitution and the land reform law, I wondered what difference that has made in improving the conditions of land tenure in urban areas, or land regulation, and things of that kind. Right.
Okay.
The third is just really a comment. I was interested in one of your last slides when you showed the map of the 4 metropolitan subregions, or whatever you call them, and this new one, which is going up into the northeast. Because I had been party to some discussions in academic conferences about the ultimate merging of Sao Paulo and Rio. They use the word the extended metropolitan region.
Yes.
And I wonder how far that can go. About 308 kilometers apart from the center to the center.
How much?
308 kilometers. Have I got that right?
Or around this?
Sometime, okay. So that's another point. Now, I was a little confused about the urbanization statistics, because I had seen some numbers which said the percentage of people living in urban areas was now 82%, but then you said 50% in urban. Sorry, so urban agglomeration just meaning a subset, large ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That answers that. the statistic you gave about the increase in slums at 42% in 15 years or 17 years.
Increase it, okay?
Yeah?
15
Yeah.
years, yes,
Now,
yes.
how do you propose to prevent slums? You know, if it prevents slums, what are the, it seems to me that until the, how far is it, well, you can answer, let me preface that with, you can answer me about to what extent there's been deceleration in the rate of population growth. And if the rate of deceleration growth has not been high, I don't know how it would be possible to prevent slums or reduce slums, at least in the short run. That's why the continued growth of the economy over probably decades is going to be so critical to addressing that problem. And then I have one other question, and that is, you know, in America, we are always writing about residential, you know, segregation. It's a big deal in America. So they would say that is a major problem, though, that we have separation of the white and the black areas, in some of the white and the Latino areas, and so on. Now, in Brazil, at least in Rio, and you showed it in some of the slides, there's such spatial proximity. And I remember years ago, instead of, I couldn't get into my favorite hotel in Rio, so I had to go down to the Sheraton in Gavia. And I remember sitting beside the pool and looking up at that favela. And it just seemed to be about 100 yards away. So does the spatial proximity of the rich and the poor, does that have any advantages or disadvantages? We know that in the Rio favelas there's the crime and the drug issue, but are there any opportunities for that to be an asset, for example, in terms of proximity to jobs? Because those people who live in the favelas are close to the availability of many jobs.
I agree with you.
So that's another point. And then the going back to for slum growth, I assume, and I think I've seen statistics on it, that now, because of the scarcity of land in the core areas, that most of the recent slum growth has been in the what you call peripheral lots,
Periphery, yes.
not in the favelas.
Formal condominios, okay, and
Yes,
formal
yes.
parcels and
Yes,
formal
yes.
agglomerations.
Yes. Well, I think maybe that's enough comment for the moment. I might chip in again later, so maybe we should open it up to the floor.
Okay, I have a lot of things to say, but I think it's necessary. Could you help me on a little bit translation, if it's possible?
Translation?
Yes, it's possible. It's possible. Please excuse me, but it's very important for me because it's very deep analysis. Okay, I try to my best. Okay. Regarding income distribution, okay, now I speak in Portuguese. Before Lula era, before President Lula, okay, we have a very important policy regarding economy. You know, very important Plano Real, okay? No Brasil, o problema econômico era mais importante do que o problema social, tá certo? Nos anos 90, in the 90s.
So what she's saying is that the economic problems were more important than the social problems in the 1990s.
Ok? O país ia entrar numa catástrofe.
The country was in a catastrophic situation.
And o Plano Real, Real Plan,
And the
Real Plan, ok? Digamos assim, ressuscitou exatamente, tá certo, as condições de governabilidade do Brasil.
So what she's essentially saying is stabilization of the currency created the conditions to do other things.
Okay, this is very important for our economy, in social terms, in political terms, in all terms. Okay, so this is the first. Políticas compensatórias, né, sociais, de distribuição de renda.
Now you got me.
excuse me, compensatory policies.
Policies related to redistribution of income.
Yes, we need, em português é compensatório, políticas compensatórias, compensatory policies, okay? Yeah, redistributive, yes, sure. Especially conditioned, quando são condicionadas, porque no caso hoje o Bolsa Família, very famous Lula's program, okay, Bolsa Família, okay, they are like a policy, social policy program, but condicionado para que a família coloque os filhos na escola. As pessoas têm a renda, mas elas têm que colocar os filhos na escola. Isso se chama política social condicionada.
Yeah, this is quite well known, I think. This condition of sort of providing some family-oriented, household-oriented support, but making it conditional upon, for example, children going to schools.
Isso ocorreu antes do governo Lula.
So this happened under the
Before
government of Fernando Henrique Cardoso, which is the prior president.
Okay, the begin before, with Fernando Henrique Cardoso, okay, president, okay? But o que ocorreu é que o presidente Lula, ele ampliou o programa,
He magnified it, made it
okay?
amplified.
Ampliou o programa e hoje, em função das políticas sociais do Brasil, cerca de 30 milhões de pessoas saíram da pobreza.
So because of these policies, 30 million people in the last 10 years, 12 years,
Yes, around this.
have come out of poverty into the lower middle class.
Okay, yes, something like that, okay? This is a broad vision regarding our social policy, okay? Mas nós temos no Brasil um problema para enfrentar que diz respeito à estrutura e o quadro legal.
But
Please.
at the same time, in Brazil, there's a big problem with legal structures. So
Okay.
there's a lot of regulations, it's very, very dense.
This is very important. This is a very strong obstacle for urban policies. Okay? Very strong obstacle for urban policies. It's very interesting because if é possível, you have money, you have project, but you can change nothing. Understand? Because the structure is so bureaucratic, it's so complicated, okay? A lot of license, a lot of rules, okay? You can do nothing. This is the point, okay? I think this is very important, okay? It's very interesting because you could have a very important posição política e decisão política, mas você também não consegue fazer.
You're saying that even if you're in a powerful political position, there's so much bureaucracy to get something, a project implemented.
It's very
that
difficult.
It's very, very difficult.
For this reason, por essa razão, I believe, I have a little bit experience in management urban policies in Brazil. I believe that nós só teremos sucesso se houver uma profunda reforma no sistema legal.
So you think there will only be successful, the country will only be successful if there's a profound change in the legal system.
We have a lot of examples. De 10 projetos no Ministério das Cidades hoje, com recursos, com projetos públicos, apenas 3 se efetivam.
So of 10 major projects across 10 metropolitan regions?
No, for all Brazil. In Ministry of Cities, we have a Ministry of Cities in Brazil, okay? In 10 projects, just 3 are effective.
3 are happening. 3
Conseguem ser implementados.
Yes, right.
This is very bad, very bad. This is a lot of money, okay, a lot of time, a lot of efforts, okay. This is very, very bad. So, unfortunately, in my opinion, it shows how it's complicated our system, okay. Also, regarding land reform, we have, as I show you, I think, please, I will show you here it's very important to respond you. So, local government, federal government, urban development law, okay? 10 years ago, we have a very important law named Estatuto da Cidade, okay? But in my opinion, this is not like a reform because they focus on just in property rights, focus on more in real and informal city, formal city, okay? More informal city, more in property rights, okay? So I think this is not enough. In my opinion, we need other rules regarding urban development, okay? Because Estatuto da Cidade, as urban development law, is not abroad, okay? It's not holistic, does not include economic issues, in my opinion, does not include very important regarding infrastructure issues in the city, okay? And I think this is not enough, okay, for you, for us, for our staff and for officials in Brazil. This is not enough. We have a very important, big problem regarding regularization of land. You can't imagine. We have processes during 40 years, 20 years, 12 years. Environmental license is also a very big, very important issue on this. Okay, we have sometimes 12 years to get a license, okay, or more. This is, in my opinion, we can't work regarding this framework, okay? It's impossible to work, okay? Because everybody say no. I think some constitutional reform is necessary also, okay? We show in many seminars, in many papers, especially regarding the urban tools. We have, very important, we have our master plans, but they are so static, okay? So static, zoning, so much zoning, very rigid, okay? We have a lot of people in Brazil living in slums, a lot of people living in informal settlements, okay? And you have also medium class living in informal conditions regarding the urban law. This is not acceptable, okay? We have a perimeter, urban perimeter. Do you have here in the United States urban perimeter?
Urban boundary.
Urban boundary. Como, não em português, como nós tivemos movimentos de pessoas imigrantes para as cidades, né? Naturalmente o território urbano era pequeno para abrigar tantas pessoas. Então as pessoas ocuparam os boundaries.
So since there was so much migration into the urban areas, in a small area, you ended up with a lot of settlements at the boundary of the cities.
Então, as pessoas ocupavam rural areas. E pela legislação urbana brasileira, ocupação de quem ocupa a área rural não tem direito aos serviços urbanos.
Oh, so let me see if I get it right. Per the law, anyone who squats in rural areas, which I would imagine
Does not access for services.
has no access to services.
No access.
By law.
By law. Have no right,
No right.
for services.
But you agree with what she said?
This create a lot of dysfunctions. This situation creates a lot of dysfunctions in urban development, especially in metropolitan region. You see, a lot of people living in informal situation. Okay, so this is just a rule, single rule, but have very strong impact for all people regarding access of services, regarding also education, all this, education, sanitation, transport system sometimes, okay, and also property rights, okay. Anyway, I think we need a deep reflection, you see, serious reflection, okay, in my opinion, in my country, regarding this framework, okay? Professor, is that?
So I have a question. I'm trying to figure out a solution.
Solution.
Because you had this, you say, everybody says no. The whole
Everybody
sys-
say no.
The system is designed to not move very quickly. Would you say that decisions are coming more slowly now than they were before? Has it slowed down?
Which decisions?
The decisions about
Approval of environmental permits, is this kind of thing?
urban development services. Are those decisions slower? Here's what I'm getting at. I think your development needs are speeding up. On an annual basis, you need more and more and more per year. But I'm sensing that your provision of services is slowing down.
So that we also big problem we have, yes.
If you could measure that and graph it, it might have some impact. Because you can then visualize what you're saying verbally. You say, this is speeding up.
Yes.
And I think there's population growth, it's going up.
And infrastructure
And you're not keeping up, but you're slowing down.
Yes,
It's a disaster.
Actually, we saw, when we were at SCAG this morning, we saw, remember one of those, they were showing population increase and then they were showing the gas tax funding, for example.
Yeah.
So showing those kinds of gaps.
Right.
Tem outro problema aí que impacto importante nisso é os investimentos públicos em infraestrutura no Brasil. Isso é muito importante, que caíram muito.
Oh, so there's something which,
Excuse me, Anthony Belly. They falling down.
the situation has been worsened by a lack of public funding for infrastructure in the country.
By the way, if I could just take a moment to introduce Dr. Anthony Bailey is our Associate Provost for Globalization here at USC. He was working with Ford Motor Company for 3 years based in Sao Paulo and had lived before that in Azores, the Azores. So he's it's fortunate that we're able to draw on his expertise here to facilitate the conversation.
Even though my Portuguese is about as good as her English.
Which are both, they're actually,
We're coming together.
they're both very impressive.
Professor Benesi, please.
Yeah, I am trying to understand your the discussion about these regulations and controls and so forth.
Yeah.
But Brazil is a federal country, nation, right? There are states, there are local jurisdictions. So if the regulations are there differences in regulations between the states and between the cities? Right, but
This is this is the federal responsibilities regarding urban development and regional development.
those are common responsibilities.
The community is housing, sanitation, transport system, environment, and protect of historical assets.
Is the policy coming from the federal level? These are federal policies?
Three levels can promote programs, okay? But sometimes depends at a hierarchy, the supplementary legislation. You see, this is another problem. Yes.
No, but I mean, in the U.S., you have some federal policies. but
Federal
then-
policies.
Right, then there are state level policies.
Yeah.
And there are differences between state to state. And within the state,
Brazil?
at the city level, municipality level, there are regulations. Which are also different from one municipality is more, you can do more in one municipality, the other municipality is more, you can do less. There could be more control in one municipality, but not so much in other municipalities. So I'm wondering, in Brazil, you have that kind of differences between the municipalities, between the states, in terms of what kind of development.
Compared to each other, so are cities different from each other in terms of their regulations? And are the states different from each other? They have different kinds of policies, I believe that is.
And yes, and the different levels of, what do you call it, freedom or control. That in some states, you can do more.
Are some states more bureaucratic and
Yeah.
some states less bureaucratic, for example?
Okay, because I think now we have like a model, you see? We have like a model. For example, Ministério das Cidades adopt some rules, something like that, resolutions for all country, for example.
Ministry of Cities, right?
For all country, for all municipalities, from north to south.
So that's uniform everywhere.
Yeah, example. We have in the last 6 years, Ministério das Cidades adopt that municipalities have that on housing plan. We have a model, okay, for all municipalities in Brazil. Ministry of Cities now do this, okay? Like oriented, okay, the policies in municipal space, okay, something like that. And I think we have a very special issue regarding urban development law. This law concentrates, okay, the issues especially on property rights, but the formal property. So, in case of Brazil, what we have a big challenge is especially the informal land and the land tenure, okay? So complicated land tenure, so complicated, okay? This is like a type of colonial times, okay? The system, you know, Anthony, a little bit, okay? Like system that colonial, that heritage herança from the colonial times, and also bureaucratic. And I think Federal Constitution in 1988 also create other institutions for fiscalization, okay? Fiscalização. Yeah, fiscalization, okay? And this also is very important for one side, but in another side complicate more and more, okay, the situation. Okay?
I assume that the Constitution in 1988 had a lot of decentralization content.
Just in legal terms,
Yeah.
but in fact, no.
But yes, it's the same. It happened all those countries which had decentralization strategies or constitutional changes during that era. And then you look now and you see what the impact is. I'm not talking about Brazil, I'm talking about other places. The impact has been minimal. So it's almost like on paper that the decentralization doesn't work effectively because, for example, take Mexico. They don't have the financial decentralization. They gave passing all these functions to the states, but they didn't help them getting the money. And I think it happens a lot everywhere, but certainly in developing countries.
The decentralization. Also, we have also tributary reform, you know, fiscal reform. Okay, fiscal reform, you understand? Fiscal reform in Brazil. The government is trying to do fiscal reform, I think, in 15 years, but it's not yet, okay? So I think also we have a very important component regarding this situation, in my opinion, okay? We need introduce other kind of analysis, spatial economic analysis, social analysis inside urban development in my country. because the legal influence is very, very strong. Very strong. Legal and formal influence, you see? Both. Legal and formal. This is very, very important for us. Also, in my opinion, we need to improve our academic approach.
Curriculum in a sense, right?
Yeah, this, yes. This is very important for us, Professor.
In order to change the legal framework,
Yeah,
that has to happen at the federal level, right?
yeah.
Now, for example, in the US, there are interest groups, right? There are environmental interest groups, there are social justice interest groups, there's business interest. So since you're saying there is a very strong control on the environment, does that mean that there is a very strong, the Brazilian politicians have a strong environmental focus to it, or social justice focus? I mean, out there in the body politic, the politicians of Brazil, do they sort of, is there from time to time, it changes their orientation, whether it focus on environment or focus on social justice or economic growth? How does...
I think, in my opinion, okay, I think the system is so strong, so rigid, that nobody have condition to, you see, to confront this. You see? Of course, now we have in Congress in Brazil, the majority is the support the government, okay? Majoria, have majority, yeah. Now, okay, for government, federal government is very comfortable, okay, no problem. But now we have a very big discussion regarding forest code. Florestal?
Floresta? Yeah, forest.
Forest code. This is very, very strong impact and discussion, but how federal government have majority, no, nothing changes. Understand? It's something like that.
I want to go back to cities. And you explained that a lot of the urban development is occurring in medium-sized cities.
Yeah.
Right. And I wonder whether you could talk a little bit more about
Medium-sized cities?
what's happening.
Okay. This I did a paper. Okay, a very interesting paper. I have one very interesting article in the very important Veja published in Brazil. Very.
It's like the Time magazine.
Yeah. 20 pages regarding the research I did on medium-sized cities in Brazil. It's very interesting. So, if I speak in Portuguese, it's easier for me a little bit. Regarding medium-sized cities. During the 90s, durante os anos 90, que é a última década agora, during the 20 years, okay? A industrialização no Brasil foi para o interior, para a região mais central do país. Eu vou tentar mostrar aqui. Here.
So this push over the last 20 years into the interior.
Yeah, sure. For the interior of Sao Paulo, okay, they take out of the metropolitan regions and go for the periphery, okay, but other cities, okay, here, here, okay, and also here, we have soya here, a very important, okay, place here, the plantation of soya, okay, and medium industries go from here, interior of Sao Paulo state, and from here, okay, to support soya activity, okay, in this case, okay. Also here, okay, and the interior of the northeast of Brazil, okay, and a transferência de indústrias de porte médio para essas cidades, for these cities, location in this here, okay, levou muitos empregados também, pessoas a migrarem para essas cidades.
The movement of medium-sized industries into the interior of the country essentially brought a lot of jobs with it.
Essas medium-sized cities in Brazil is around 100 mil a 500 mil habitantes, mais ou menos isso.
100,000, 150,000.
Around that, medium-sized cities. E nessas cidades, between 100 mil e 500 mil habitantes, ocorreu o maior percentual de crescimento populacional.
So, in those cities, which have between 100,000 and 150,000 inhabitants, those cities had the largest increase in population.
Maior populacional e também nos serviços e na indústria.
And the largest increase in
In services and
services
industry.
and industry.
Okay? This study I did at IPEA. Okay? This is very interesting. More than metropolitan regions, more than big cities and small cities.
And so has the infrastructure then been pretty much constructed in these new cities?
Private sector does.
Private sector.
Private sector do some. It's very interesting because the dynamic of medium-sized cities is so strong that they change the system of aeroportuário, de pequenos aeroportos. A criação de novos aeroportos no Brasil, de alcance regional, se deu em função, especialmente, do crescimento das cidades médias do Brasil.
So, if I understood correctly, a lot of what drove the growth in these smaller cities was growth in small airports, expansion of small airports.
Ok, um momento assim, a atividade aeroportuária dos aeroportos teve que acompanhar a dinâmica das cidades médias e muitos aeroportos foram criados pelo crescimento dessas cidades, entendeu? Necessidade.
Many airports were created because of the growth of those cities.
Yeah, okay, this is very interesting. This is very important.
The airports were created as part of a policy to expand the cities.
But to support the dynamic of the middle-sized cities, to support, yes, yes. But in case of the middle-sized cities, the more responsibility is for the private sector, okay? Regarding the
private sector was able to build airports.
No, excuse me, no. I said that o crescimento das cidades médias ocorreu muito em função da atividade do setor privado, da atividade econômica. É isso que eu quero dizer.
Does the private sector have more freedom in Brazil in the smaller cities than they do in the bigger cities?
I think it's easier. I think it's a little bit easier, maybe. Little bit, maybe.
Wild, Wild West.
Maybe, yeah.
Frontier. That's often the case, right, in frontier.
Less watched in smaller cities?
It's very interesting. During the 70s, the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s, I participate in federal level for a very interesting program regarding to promote the development of this area of Brazil, okay? The name is Fronteira Agrícola. Cis Fronteira, La Fronteira, Frontier, yeah. It's very interesting because in this epoch, in this era, okay, it was centralized government. Remember the military revolution? Always centralized in the 70s, okay? Strong central government, very strong. And the central government have this interesting program to promote the development of the interior of Brazil. Amazonia, here, with Transamazônica, remember, very big road, Transamazônica here in the Transamazônica is here. Transamazônica, okay, and to improve and create cities here. All these cities was created in the 70s. All this is Rondônia state, okay? All these cities is created in the 70s. A lot of people from Paraná state, okay? This is Rio Grande do Sul, Santa Catarina, Paraná state is here, okay? São Paulo is here, it's Paraná state. With the modernization of the agriculture, a lot of immigrants promoted by state, okay, goes to this area, and all these cities was created in the 70s. All this. It's very interesting.
Yeah, because Paraná had a lot of soybeans at that time, in the 80s. And so they moved.
Yeah, they moved. And very interesting also, the middle-sized cities now, okay, very, very important cities now. located in this area. Very high income, pleno emprego, very interesting. And high services in some cases, okay? But I think this is a very interesting story. This road here, we have also some middle-sized cities here. This is created in the 60s when the capital changed from Rio to Brasilia. It's very new, okay? All these cities here, okay, was created after the 60s. Something like that.
And I want to keep an eye on the time. We have about time for one more question. So we're set to end at 1:30. So.
Do you have a question?
Oh my. Well, I don't know, Director Motta, I had a chance about 11 years ago to participate in a World Bank study of transport privatization across 3 sectors, highways, freight rail, and Metropolitan passenger rail transit. And of those, the highway privatization was very advanced. There were several different segments of the highway system that had been granted
In Brazil.
Yeah, in Brazil, that had been granted by franchise to private companies. And the agreement was that the company...
Concession in Sao Paulo State.
Yes.
It's concession, yeah.
And the agreement was that the private company would engage in upgrades, refurbishment, maintenance, in return for the toll collection. This was around 2001, relatively early. So I'm wondering what has happened. I know in one of the states, and I think it may have been Paraná, I believe, there was some debate. The state government was trying to remember the details, was in dispute, in disagreement with the concessionaire as to whether or not the road should remain in the private sector or return to the public sector. All the others seem to be functioning as intended. So I'm wondering what has happened with that program 10 years later?
Regarding the public PPP?
The concessions
PPP.
of the highway.
Okay, after that, okay, Brazil adopted a law, okay, I think 2004, private PPPs,
Okay,
né?
yes,
Private-public partnership, yes. In 2004, okay, it's a new law, Lula government, Governo Lula, okay, to organize all these demands, okay? But regarding concessions, in Brazil now, is very strong now regarding the roads, especially in Sao Paulo State, okay? Very important roads in Sao Paulo to link it, Sao Paulo here, okay, here,
Yeah.
from the northeast, okay, of the central-west area and the south, okay? All these main, you see, here the roads, very important roads, okay? In direction to the interior of the country, okay, are concessions, okay? Sao Paulo State have have some studies regarding concessions, have experience,
Yeah.
I think around 15 years around that,
Yeah.
okay, on concessions, okay? But also in Paraná State, okay, I think during the Jaime Lerner, when Jaime Lerner, very famous architect, okay, Curitiba mayor, etc., okay, adopted a very interesting program regarding consórcios intermunicipais, como se fala?
Okay.
Intermunicipal consortium, okay? It's very interesting, okay? Because a rich municipality could support poor municipalities in the same region. This is very, very interesting experience, okay? In my opinion, the best experience, okay, regarding regional planning, and regional programs. Very, very, in different way, in socio-economic regarding to improve improve the job, okay, to increase the jobs, etc. Very, very interesting, okay. But I'd like to say in the last that I think we can begin now, okay, changing this situation. I believe that, okay? And I believe that we can begin especially including the principle of progressive, okay? Progressive urbanization. This is very important for us, okay? Because we have in 1979 one law regarding urban parcel that changed everything. This law said that urbanization, it's land parcel, okay? Urbanization must be completed, okay, in the land, and after the people must come. This is not, during the 80s, this law had a very strong implication in the informal settlements. Because the people, with this law, the cost of the land is highest, very high, because the land somente poderia ser vendida com infraestrutura. This is very important. Please, Anthony.
Land could only be sold with
Infrastructure. So poor people have so much difficulty to access to land, do you understand? And for housing also. Anyway, in my opinion, this law, okay, during these 30 years studying this regulation in Brazil, okay, this law have the most impact in urbanization in Brazil, okay? Because I think if we need improve some rules, okay, especially permitting a progressive urbanization, progressive services, okay, water, sanitation, okay, pavement, okay, electricity, I think would be better, okay, but I think this is the first way, I think the first step, and I think we need also now beginning to suggest, okay, to suggest some issues, okay, in order to change the regulatory framework. This is my opinion.
Okay.
But just one final.
I'm a big stickler for being on time. Start on time and finish on time, because then you start the next thing on time. You know, we could go on forever. Well, we can continue it.
But it sounds basically set out the urban growth boundaries and doesn't adjust them. Because here in the U.S., we have urban growth boundaries around some metropolitan areas, but they have to be adjusted as growth continues. That's right. So that's something for our.
Well, the difficulty is that there's another class that will need this room soon.
Right.
So I think we should continue.
But we can continue the discussion, because we're reaching, we have one.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your patience. Excuse me for my English, okay?